Hi everyone, I'm Tom and today I'm going to be showing you Crystal Age. Long ago, a great big crystal crashed down into Ansel's lands, making this great big crater. It corrupted the nearby realms, but with the help of these guardians, we managed to fence it in, wall it off, seal the corruption inside, but as plucky, maybe cheeky heroes, we are deciding to venture inside, fight creatures to gain their abilities, gain the favour of guardians perhaps to get their help, and ultimately gain control of the crater, or work together to destroy the corruption once and for all if we're playing cooperatively. Crystal Age is for 1 to 4 players. I've got it set up for 2 players here. Little Glass Marty's helping me out. I think he's just rolled his d20 forward though. That's cats for you. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the competitive mode of the game, where the aim of the game is to get to the middle, stay there for 3 rounds, and then you will be the person that takes control of the corruption and wins the game. There are also modes with a couple of extra rules, a couple of variants for if you want to play solo or if you want to play cooperatively and work together and try to destroy the corruption once and for all. This is on Kickstarter right now. I'll put a link to the campaign page in the description and in the corner of the screen so you can check out the final thing. This is a prototype, but it should give you a very good idea of what the final thing will look like and how you can make it happen. You can see lovely examples of the various guardians already just in these little prototypes. So we take control of characters that go in a corner of the walls. I'm playing Xandar, and over here Little Glass Marty is joining us to play Edrain. On your turn, you can move and then have an action phase. When you move, you'd of course be standing up. I'm just showing you for a bird's eye view. You want to see the standees. You move through these lines to spaces that are dots along little paths. You can either walk, that just moves you 1 square. If you jog, you can move 2 squares. Or if you run, you can move 3 squares. You can move in any direction, but once you have started moving, you've got to keep moving in that direction. You can't go back on yourself in the same turn. You can also block paths for other heroes because they can't move through spaces that you're in. Now, the reason you might want to move less is because the more you move, the more your options will be limited. If you happen to run, you can only choose to fight against other heroes or try and dominate / destroy the corruption in the center crater. So you only want to run if you can make something out of that action phase. So in the action phase, you can choose to do 1 action. Wherever you are on the board, you can choose to fight against corruption. To do this, you draw cards based on where you are on the board. So right now, I would be on the wall. I would draw from the wall deck, but you can also be in the wasteland biome, the forest biome, or the crater. And here's where movement also plays into this. If you only walked and only moved 1 space, you can reveal 2 cards from the deck, choose 1 and discard the other one. If you jogged, so you moved 2 spaces, you only get to reveal 1 card, and that creature is the one you have to fight against. Let's say I jogged and I've got no choice. I am facing Sinequus. Now, creatures on the wall have low corruption. That's going to determine the attack dice that they use. The more corruption they've got, the more chance they've got of hitting quite hard. Now, between the characters and the monsters, we have similar attributes. So we've got a health value. The heroes have 20 health. Sinequus has 2. We have an attack value. This shows how many dice you'll roll. So I roll 3. Sinequus would roll 1. The colour shows which dice you would roll. So I would roll the low corruption dice as well, just more of them. We have a defense value. So this is the number that has to be matched or exceeded with an attack die. So I'm quite easy to hit at the moment. I can be hit with a value of 2 or more. That's about 50% of a low corruption die. And we've got initiative values as well. My initiative is 1. And creatures and the corruption lords have initiative. So it determines who starts an attack. Their initiative is 3. So we would then have some combat. If I'd got any pre-combat abilities, items to use, I would use them now. Right at the start, I wouldn't have anything. So here, the creature would have higher initiative because I don't have any. So they would get to go first. So Sinequus is rolling 1 low corruption die, but has a special ability that gives them another one. They need to get 2 or more to do damage to me. So a 2 and a 1. The 1 misses, the 2 hits me. So I take a damage, but I have a defensive ability called Drain. If someone rolls a 1 against me when they try and hit me, I heal. Unfortunately, that kicks in before the apply damage phase. So I can't heal past my maximum. An unfortunate time for that to come up, but hopefully it would come up more in the fight. So I would take 1 damage and be down to 19, and that would be their attack phase done with. Then it would be mine. I've got no pre-combat abilities. Offensive, I get to roll 3 dice, but I need to get 3s to actually hit. So we got, a couple there. That's actually a very good result. Sorry, Standy. That is brilliant because Sinequus has got 2 health. So I would then defeat this creature and keep the creature card next to me. because I can use the creature's abilities when I fight. The initiative on their card, that's now my initiative. Any abilities they have in this section, I can now use them. This one here is an impact ability. It means I roll an additional die of that colour. So I've now got 4 attack dice to roll. You can only have 3 creatures under your control at a time, and they have to be unique. The low corruption creatures always have 1 ability. The mid corruption creatures in the biomes have got 2 abilities and roll the orange dice, and the high corruption creatures in the crater will roll the pink high corruption dice and have 3 abilities to use against you, but if you can defeat them, to use with you. So we can fight against corruption wherever we are. If you are in one of the 2 squares in front of or behind a guardian, you can try the Guardian's Challenge to try and gain their favour. If you can gain their favour, you get their miniature and an ability to use. Let's assume I've done a bit more fighting. I'm over here doing a Guardian's Challenge. So first of all, you suffer damage equal to the number of destruction gems embedded in the Guardian. That's 2 in the competitive game anyway. So I'll be knocked down a bit more. And then you roll your corresponding attack dice, but you only use offensive abilities. So I've got a regenerate ability here that would heal me a bit at the start of every combat. Just using offensive abilities now. Now the Guardians all have a defense of 3 and a life reserve of 4 points. So I feel like this is a bit unlikely at the moment. Let's see though, we need 4 hits and their defense is 3s, so I have done a single damage here. If you have destruction gems from fighting Guardians in the past, you can use each one, you can discard them to deal unblockable damage to the Guardians. At the moment though, I wouldn't have any. For each point of damage you did manage to deal, so that's just 1 for me, take one of those destruction gems from the base while they're still there to take, and you can use that in future fights. You can use these in death matches as well, against the creatures, against other heroes, against the corruption lords, and then you're teleported to the opposite kingdom's portal. The Guardian regenerates back to 4 health, and it's a little bit easier now for someone to try and fight them. Well, they'll take a bit less damage when they go charging in. If you are in a crater square, you can choose to dominate the corruption. In competitive mode, you're dominating it. In solo and cooperative, you're trying to destroy the corruption. If there's another hero on one of the crater spaces, you have to perform a death match against them as your action. Same way that we fought the creature, it's just that you use all of your abilities against the player uses all of their abilities. If a hero is defeated by another hero, that player is out of the game and they've got to give all of their stuff to the person who defeated them. The winner also heals 6 health back because they probably have had a tough fight against another player. So in a game with just 2 players like this, the victorious person is the winner. But in a game with 3 or 4 players, it would continue. You'll have gained a load of things, but probably been quite weakened by that fight. If you get to the central crater alone, though, you get placed as the solo hero in the middle. You reveal a card from the crater deck, and you have to either fight the enemy that you drew, same way as before. If it happens to be a crystal you draw, though, you have to do battle against one of the corruption lords. Really, really tough adversaries. Like Atherax here rolls a ton of high corruption dice, has got 2 ambush, so you take 2 damage, unblockable before the fight even begins. If you roll 1s against them, then they heal back up. A little bit easier to hit there, but if you do manage to defeat a Lord of Corruption, you take their card, flip it to the other side, and they've got an ability that you can use. So a high corruption die to be able to use for the rest of the game is pretty nice, and they don't count as one of the 3 unique creatures that you can have next to your card. If you are still in the center of the crater at the start of your next turn, you do this action again. If you can survive 3 rounds in the center of the crater, you win the game. There are other things around to help. The destruction gems help you in combat. If you end your movement in one of these spaces with a yellow square, it's a smoke bomb. You can discard these at the start of fights to get a maximum 10 in initiative. There are also potions. You can grab these if you end your movement on there and heal 3. Can't take you past your total health. And then you still get to do an action afterwards. As you'd expect, there are plenty more abilities to see from the enemies, like Miracle adds 1 to one of your attack dice. Exhaust is a defensive ability that can reduce someone else's attack die. someone attacking you by 1. Mastery lets you re-roll one of your attack dice. Devastate means that a result of 3 on one of your dice does 2 damage. So you can see that over the course of fights, over the course of the game, you will build up your own unique hero. And also the powers of the Guardians too. So you can get the power of the shield that blocks 1 point of damage in each attack round. If you defeat the Guardian, you'll get their ability, remember? The power of the throne, at the beginning of your turn, you heal 1. And in competitive mode, everyone else suffers a damage. The power of the chalice is that if your life total gets reduced to 0, you get resurrected with 5 health. You can only use this once. And the power of the sword, your base 3 low corruption attack dice become mid corruption orange attack dice instead. So that's the basic competitive game. You are roaming the lands, fighting, building up abilities by defeating creatures to hopefully make your way into the central crater, do battle against the most formidable enemies, survive for 3 rounds to take control of that corruption. But we can also play solo. In solo mode, instead of 2 corruption gems, each Guardian gets 6 corruption gems in their base. The corruption gems are now their health total, and they do not heal at the end of combat. They still do a point of damage for each gem at the start of combat, so at the start of the game, 6 damage to you. And for every damage you manage to do, you discard one of these gems. You don't get them anymore. When there are no gems left in the base, you gain the favor. Also, in a solo game, you are trying to destroy the corruption in the middle rather than try and dominate it. Rather than drawing from the crater deck, you must choose one of the corruption lords to fight, and if you can defeat a corruption lord, you win the game. In addition to that, we can play cooperatively in alliance mode. We do not have individual life counts anymore. We have a common life pool equal to 10 points plus 10 for every player in the alliance. So in a game with 2 players, we would have 10 plus 10 each, making 30. In a cooperative game, you're allowed to cross spaces occupied by other players. You're not blocking anymore. The Chalice ability now resets the common life pool rather than individuals. And instead of the 5 health, you regenerate 3 per player. We don't fight each other in a cooperative game, of course. There can be multiple heroes in the crater space at once, because the aim of the game in the cooperative version is to defeat as many corruption lords as there are players in the game. As you can see, they are quite formidable opponents, as you might expect. So there we go. That is a quick look at Crystal Age. I hope you enjoyed that and it gave you a good idea of what the game is like. Again, if you would like to help make this happen, see what the final version will come with, I will link the Kickstarter page in the description and all of the details will be there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you for the next game, everyone. Bye!